Hey everyone, so a lot of people ask me how my suspension works, so I thought I'd make a video to show that. I got a volunteer on the forklift here to lift the car up and down so I can show you a little bit of action. I'll explain it first a little bit. So right off the lower control arm, everything's dirty and shitty from the end of the season last year, so forgive me for that, but right off the lower control arm, we have a rod end, and it goes up to this rocker here, and it simply pivots right off here, this way, and the suspension, the coilover compresses there. It's really not too complicated, but a lot of people don't really see how it works. So I'll get my volunteer here to lift the car up, and you can see how it works. Obviously I have the spring off of the shock so it can compress. So that's fully decompressed now. And then when it goes back down, you'll see it compress again. Now I got a block of wood under the lower control arm there to simulate a wheel, but I took it off so you could see the whole motion here. And it's going to hit it in a second. And there you go. So this is simulating the wheel going up when the car hits a bump. And there's a few advantages of this system. So obviously you can see the difference between the distance from the pivot to this push rod mount and the pivot to the coilover mount. It's a 2-to-1 ratio. So when this moves 1 inch here, this side moves 2 inches here. Now because of the angle that the push rod is on, it's not actually 1 to 2, so it's not when the wheel moves up 1 inch, the shock compresses 1 inch. It turns out to be about 1 5/8 to 1 ratio. So the shock and the spring have a 1 5/8 advantage over the push rod there. So every time my wheel moves up 1 inch, the shock compresses 1 5/8 inches. So what that does is, if you have a 100-pound spring rate, let's say, in order for the wheel to move 1 inch, you'd have to have 162 pounds of force. So that automatically allows you to have stiffer springs or stiffer suspension. And then that helps you out there if you need really stiff suspension like I do. Another benefit of this system is if you don't have space, you can do this. Like I don't have too much room. I could have run a regular Corvette coilover because I have all Corvette suspension, but I like the look of this better, and it gets everything into the center of the car more, so you have a better center of gravity. So there's a few advantages. Also, you get to, with the different ratio on the rocker there, you get to use more of the shock, which is just better. And then, like, I have barely any travel at all. So if I didn't have the ratio there, then I'd really not use too much spring at all. So this way, it's a lot better. But I have a similar setup in the rear of my car. It's a little bit different, but really the same. Just a few different angles and stuff on the pivots down there, but it's still 2-to-1. And yeah, I really mainly did it because it looks pretty cool and I just wanted to try to do something different. But I like the way it turned out. And yeah, that's a push rod cantilever suspension. Explained a little bit.